You've been here before.
Most people have been somewhere before.
That's not what I meant. I'm 24. I work mornings at a diner, not a chain. One of those places that's been on the same corner since before I was born. Laminate tabletops, a specials board that gets erased and rewritten in the same handwriting every single day. I picked up the job about a year ago because my loan repayment schedule kicked in, and the morning shift works because it's done by 2, and I can study in the afternoon, theoretically. Though, mostly I just sit somewhere quiet and stare at things. He started coming in maybe 8 or 9 months ago, always the same corner 2 top, always during my shift. I want to be clear that I'm not someone who gets weird about customers, because the professional-personal overlap in a job like this can go sideways fast, and I've watched it happen to other people on the floor. You work a section long enough, and the patterns just live in your body. I noticed him the way I notice anything that happens more than twice. He wasn't loud, he didn't ask for a lot, he tipped fine, and then one morning I picked up the check holder after he left, and there was a 20 tucked under the edge of his coffee mug instead of inside the holder where it was supposed to go, folded once, sitting there against the ceramic like he'd thought about where to put it, and the tab was $9.25. I stood there for a second longer than I needed to.
You want me to move you to a different section for a while?
No, it's fine.
I'm not asking because something's wrong.
I know.
Okay.
The thing about tip percentage at a place like this is that everyone on the floor knows what everyone else is pulling from their regulars, not because anyone announces it, but because you see what people leave and you talk, just the way co-workers talk, filling the 10 minutes before open or the lag between rushes. Leaving too much means something in that economy. It gets noticed, it gets mentioned, it gets filed away by people who aren't even involved. I didn't bring up the 20. It felt like the kind of thing that changes in the retelling. Like, if I said it out loud, it would become a different story than the one I was actually in. He kept coming back that week, and the week after, and the amount he left always did the same thing to the tab. I started doing the math without meaning to, which I hate that I noticed, because once you start doing that, you can't really stop. You've been here before.
Most people have been somewhere before.
That's not what I meant.
I know, yeah, a few times, it's not far.
It's quieter in the early spring. About 3 weeks ago, he came in on a Saturday, and at some point during the meal, he took his phone off the table and I saw his lock screen. Not intentionally. I was clearing a nearby surface and glanced over in the automatic way you glance at things. And it was a photo of a shoreline. Very flat, very grey. The kind of lakeshore you see in this region in early spring when nothing has colour yet. I have almost the exact same photo saved on my phone from a trail I walked last April when I needed to get out of my apartment and just went to the water without a plan. I've never mentioned it to him. I keep going back to it the way you go back to something that doesn't feel finished.
He came in Tuesday.
I know, someone mentioned it.
He didn't stay.
Yeah,
Just so you have that.
Diane. She's my shift supervisor. She's been here since before I started. She knows everything about everyone, and she processes most of it through what I can only describe as a very calm, very deliberate silence. Diane had started rotating me onto his table whenever our schedules lined up, which I noticed but didn't comment on, because commenting on it felt like acknowledging more than I wanted to put on the table at that point, professionally or otherwise. She's 41. She has opinions about everything and shares about a third of them, and the ones she keeps to herself always seem more considered than the ones she says out loud. I just absorbed the rotation and kept working. Then she mentioned it to me one morning. Not as a big thing, just during the coffee station lull. She said that the previous week, the morning I called in sick, he'd come in, stood in the entryway for a moment, looked around the floor, and left without ordering. She said it evenly without leaning into it, and then she went to go check on a table, and that was it.
Is he always like that in the morning?
Some days are worse.
Right.
You don't have to do anything about it.
I wasn't really doing anything.
Okay. What Diane didn't know, and what I hadn't told anyone, was that the week before any of that, I'd been coming out of the service hallway with a tray, and I'd stopped because there was something happening adjacent to his table. There was an older man who had been sitting nearby for most of the morning, and who had been, to put it gently, the kind of patron who makes a shift feel longer than it is. The morning had been unpleasant in a low-grade continuous way, and I had felt it in my shoulders for about an hour. I was holding the tray, and I watched him lean slightly toward the older man's table and say something. Quiet, unhurried, the way you'd mention something minor to someone sitting near you on a bench. And I couldn't hear it from where I was standing. When I came back around, the older man's posture was different. Not dramatically, not in a way I could point to and describe easily. The held tension in it was just gone, and the rest of the morning went fine. I wasn't scheduled on Friday. I just woke up and felt like going somewhere I knew, and it's a diner, people go to diners. Except I'd never done it before, in a year of working there, and I knew that when I walked through the door in my own clothes instead of my uniform, the other servers did a small visible recalibration when they saw me. That half second of not quite recognition that happens when a person appears in a context that doesn't match the file you have for them. I sat in the section I normally work. He came in at the usual time. He paused at the door, longer than he normally would to just orient himself in the room. And then he crossed the floor toward my table, not toward the corner, to top, not waiting to be seated, just walked over in that unhurried way he has. I caught something in my peripheral vision that I think was one of the other servers slowing down for a second, before resuming what they were doing. The check came eventually. It was mine this time. I paid it. I have a 6 a.m. shift Monday.